Empaths, you're being triggered into your role as healers on the planet. So this masterclass will help you download the matrix of abundance so that you can fully liberate your humanity. This class is meant to remind you of what you already know. You came in with the program of abundance. You just haven't activated it yet. So now's the time. And remember, this is a memory that you're activating. It should resonate with you at the deepest levels, and that's how you know it's for you. I essentially wrote this class for anyone who is where I was 6 years ago when I was first activated into my role. I didn't know at that point that I would be mentoring empaths. I didn't know that I'd be exiting the 9-to-5 matrix, and I certainly didn't know I was going to be starting my own business. I didn't know how any of it looked, but all I knew is that I couldn't do what I'd been doing anymore, and I had been specifically activated and called in my soul to do something different. In my case, the universe told me to show up, to be willing to look like a dumbass, to be willing to make mistakes, to do it publicly so people could see it. Because it's important that we understand that it's not about being perfect. And one of the ways in which the lack matrix is fueled is by our unwillingness to be vulnerable, our unwillingness to be seen when we're in transition and how uncomfortable that is, our unwillingness to be looked at when we might be doing something might not be perfect, our unwillingness to be looked at when we don't feel comfortable in our bodies. And I know for a lot of empaths, we hide. A lot of you are hiding. A lot of you know you're being called out, but you don't want to be seen. You don't feel comfortable in your body. You don't feel comfortable with who you are. But it is time. It's time to end the war within you. It's time to love yourself. It's time to step out. It's time to just get comfortable with being vulnerable, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not. It's inevitable. The universe is going to ask you to step up into your next level of integration. We are either going to thrive or we won't survive. So it's up to you to choose what you do, and I hope this class helps you make that decision. It's important to understand the basics of what's happening on the planet right now. People are getting triggered, and when people are triggered, they go into defense mode because they feel unsafe. And when we feel unsafe, we have a choice to make, whether we're going to go to war or whether we're going to work through the vulnerability of feeling unsafe and create a reality in which we do feel safe. As an empath, you have a sensitivity to the collective. So when we are collectively triggered, things can feel really intense for you, depending on which ways you empath. If you're a strong mental empath, for example, you have a pulse on the collective hive mind. You can feel the collective thoughts. And when the collective is in psychic warfare, it can feel extremely confusing. It can feel like you're not really sure where you are, because you feel everyone. You're not on one side or another. You are all things, and you have a pulse on all things. And so this time, when people are highly triggered, can trigger empaths even more intensely. And the purpose of these triggers is to catapult us into our role as healers. The purpose of a trigger is to reveal to us where we still need healing. It's to show us where we're still identifying with lack, because at the core of all triggers is fear, and at the root of fear is a feeling of being unsafe or a feeling of powerlessness. Essentially, it's all rooted in lack, and lack is the biggest trauma of the human race. So as we are collectively being triggered, we are also collectively being given the opportunity to heal humanity, to heal the wound of lack. And we do that first and foremost within us. So it's important right now that though you may be triggered, the most crucial thing that you can do is calm your trigger, calm your central nervous system, listen to your heart, discover what you need, and meet that need. The way that an empath fuels the lack matrix is simply by bypassing their own needs. Essentially, we give our power to lack because we bypass ourselves and therefore create lack within ourselves. Therefore, with our strong emotive energies, we fuel the energy of lack because it's the primary energy we feel. Bypassing our needs is not a virtue. In fact, it's part of the problem. It's how we enable lack to continue. It's also how we enable the victim, aggressor, savior paradigm. So the most important thing to understand is that the lack matrix that we've been fueling by bypassing our needs drains us of our energy and stills our creative life force. It disempowers us. It keeps us in a state of confusion, and it causes us to self-sabotage. So bypassing our needs is the most nonsensical and, in fact, destructive thing that we can do. So if the problem is that empaths fuel the lack matrix by bypassing their needs, then the solution would be to fuel the abundance matrix by meeting your needs. When you meet your needs, you feel abundant, and therefore you create the resonance of abundance. And when you create the resonance of abundance, you bring abundance to the planet. You bring more thriving. This is how we connect to our abundance. We start with the resonance within us. We meet our needs. We stop bypassing any aspect of who we are. If I could go back and have a conversation with myself 6 years ago when I first began to exit the matrix and had no idea what my life was going to look like, I would tell myself these 3 things. 1, you can trust what you feel. It's important to tune in. This is the first step to meeting your needs. 2, you can't plan. You can only prepare. You don't know the how, but you do know the what. And the what is abundance. The what is tapping into your sovereign creative abilities. The what is what you know, which is that you do not have to be a slave to anything. And number 3, you must overcome your shadow. Make conscious that which you've rejected. Your emotions are your indicators, and if something doesn't feel good, it's for a reason. You don't need to know why it doesn't feel good. You don't have to tell a story about it. You don't have to make it wrong or right. All you need to know is that it doesn't feel good. In the lack matrix, we're not allowed to tune into our hearts. It feels too indulgent to do so. When we're in lack, we're energetically bullied into submission. We're controlled by fear, guilt, and shame, and we're not allowed to say how we feel. Because if we say how we feel, that would point out the fact that we're bypassing something. The function of the lack matrix is to keep us in lack. So if you're aware of your needs and you meet them, then you're no longer in lack. So do you see why being in touch with how you feel is a conflict of interest in the lack matrix? Anything or anyone that's trying to rob you of your emotional experience is keeping you in lack, period. We are kept in lack through bullying. When you feel energetically bullied, your life force is drained. This is how we give our power to the lack matrix. It's how it's fueled. It's only fueled by our permission, by believing that love is limited, and therefore we bypass our hearts and bypass how we feel. This is why you must pay attention to how you feel. You can't know you're being drained of your life force if you don't pay attention to how you feel. If you tune in, you'll learn really quick who and what is draining your life force, and you can make different arrangements. Speak your needs. Revoke any agreement you've made to the lack matrix, to anyone or anything that's controlling you or manipulating you through fear. The lack matrix keeps you out of touch with your heart and confused or obsessed in your mind over doing the right thing. We've been programmed to believe that love is conditional, like I said. So when the lack matrix is controlled by the mind, and the mind is a terrible master, it's disconnected from the heart, which is why it feels there's a lack of love. And it's a tyrant because it's in survival mode. Your emotions aren't wrong. They're your messengers. They're also not you. So don't be bullied into shame because of how you feel. Your emotions allow you to know vibrationally where you are and how to shift. They are not you. They are just messengers. So it's important to remember that the only way you can be in lack is by agreeing to lack, and by agreeing that there's a limit to love. There's a limit to what you can access. There's a limit to healing. Once you realize there's not a limit, and you realize that by tuning in and giving yourself love every time you tune in and say, this doesn't feel good, and shift and pay attention to what does feel good, you are loving yourself, which you're tapping into the limitless source of love. And pretty soon you start to realize love is not limited, and then you can no longer be tricked into lack. The affirmation I have for you is, I trust my fully restored heart, and I allow it to lead me back to my true self, back to abundance. You can't plan, you can only prepare. This is one of the most important things I wish I could tell my past self, because when you're doing something new, like reprogramming your DNA from lack to abundance, your brain doesn't have a way to know what will happen or what you're going to do, or even a context of what it looks like, because it's new. The brain only has the capacity to know what might happen based on what's happened in the past. It only knows what has happened. So when you're doing something new, you're kind of like a fish out of water. And it's important to understand that as you prepare for this next level of the game, all you can do is align yourself to what you know you're stepping into, which is abundance. So this is resonance training. It's about tuning your vibration to the resonance of abundance. And what abundance feels like to you is going to be very specific based on where your heart has been wounded and where you're in lack and where you need to meet those wounds or heal those wounds and meet the lack. So preparing for your role is making sure that you're not compromising any aspect of you. Now, this might feel counterintuitive to you as an empath, because an empath usually always puts others' needs before their own. But it's important to realize that doing that is nonsensical. If I told you to put my needs before yours, or else you were a selfish person, who would actually be selfish in that scenario? You must fill your cup first. You must meet your needs first. You must tune in to what the resonance of abundance feels like to you and practice that above all else. This is how you prepare for your role, by learning to meet your needs. This is your highest leverage point. And if I could say that there's anything that you should learn right now in order to prepare yourself to jump on the opportunities that are coming for you, it's this right here. Learn how to meet your needs. Prepare by practicing the resonance of abundance. The more you practice that resonance, the more clear your mind will be, the more inspired you will be, the more you'll learn to trust yourself, because you won't be bypassing some vital aspect, and you'll be able to jump on the opportunity that's coming for you as soon as it comes. You'll be able to recognize it. And the third thing that I would tell myself 6 years ago, before embarking on, especially working one-on-one with people, is that you must integrate your shadow. Every hang-up you have along the way is simply a firing of a program from the lack matrix. Remember, in the lack matrix, we have bypassed and rejected ourselves, usually the heart. And everything that we rejected didn't go anywhere. All those needs are still there. Bypassing a need doesn't make it not a need anymore. It just compounds the issue. So when we integrate our shadow, we practice radical transparency and authenticity. Integrating your shadow is about being honest with your needs and feelings, your true needs, and feelings, even the darker ones, the feelings of jealousy and hurt and anger and despair. All of those things that have been buried need to come to the surface for healing. That's how we're restored. So once you have allowed the wound to come to the surface, once you know what your needs are, you can clarify your intentions. If you don't believe you're worthy of love, then you won't believe humanity is worthy either, and you won't be able to be restored, and you won't be able to be an offering in your gifts the way that you could be. It doesn't help to say, I want the world to be at peace, because if you can't admit that you want and need peace as well, if you can't include yourself in the agenda, then you can't offer it to humanity. Pretending like your needs don't matter is not a virtue. And a lot of empaths have been trained into believing that if they put themselves last, it somehow will make them more lovable. So on the back end, they'll be more valuable, and maybe they'll get put first by someone else. It's a really backward way of doing things, and it's an indirect way of getting our needs met. And this is how the shadow is activated. This is how we have unclear intentions or unclear motives when we create, and they come out in ways that we don't expect. So the way to integrate the shadow is to become as aware as possible of how we feel. Again, radical transparency and authenticity, not bypassing our needs. The affirmation I have for you is, I receive both my darkness and my light. I commit them both to the story of abundance, to the restoration and full liberation of my heart and the heart of humanity. I truly believe that you are being activated into your new role. You're literally waking up and shifting to a parallel reality. You're going through a death process, so to speak. The you that believed that you couldn't meet your needs and that you were powerless, in other words, the you that has always been victimized, is healing and learning that she or he can meet their needs and can be empowered. And at this point is where it's important and essential to ask yourself, what are my intentions for my life? Is it restoration or revenge? Once we've committed to meeting our needs, we must clarify our motives. If we move towards abundance with an attitude of revenge towards our humanity or all the things that hurt us, our intentions remain unclear and we create unclear situations. In other words, we don't end the war within us because we still, on some level, are needing revenge. Now, revenge is not a bad energy. Revenge is actually a higher vibration than anger even. But revenge, we can channel the energy of needing revenge into giving ourselves what we didn't get that we need now. Getting that need to be validated, satisfied. And it's important to become aware of where we have revengeful tendencies and not to shame ourselves for it. It is part of the aggressor victim savior paradigm. It's part of our programming, and everyone feels that way. And logically speaking, revenge makes sense. So there's no reason to withhold love from ourselves if we feel feelings of revenge, but it's important that we clarify our motives. This is also part of integrating the shadow, because we need to be clear vibrationally. This is a vibrational universe and everything is based on frequency. If we have unclear motives, our vibration is unclear and we create and attract unclear situations. So, restoration or revenge. When we choose restoration, we choose to end the war within humanity. That doesn't mean pretending we're not hurt. It doesn't mean pretending what has happened hasn't happened. But it's choosing to come up or to create alternatives that bring us together, that heal the wound so we don't keep creating it. And the only way that we can do that is by laying down our weapons and picking up our plowshares, picking up our tools for creating, and see what we can create. We can channel our anger and our hurt and our wounds into something productive, something that actually heals the wound. And this is part of what you are being triggered into right now. How you uniquely heal your own wound and work through it gives you the tools to help others, and it's going to be what you turn around and give others, just as I'm turning around and giving you things that I've learned. Knowing what your motivations are and clarifying your intentions also protects your future self, because if you have negative intentions, whether they're conscious or unconscious, towards humanity, you have them towards yourself and you will still be at war. If we harbor feelings of self-hate, our intentions towards others cannot be purely good. So on the same token, your own self-hatred matters. It matters because if you hate, you can't be a clear channel for love. So it's important that we deal with our emotions, that we fully validate the anger and the wound, that we forgive ourselves and everyone. Forgiveness is key, and that we commit to the win-win-win. Win for our body, win for our heart, win for our mind, win for ourself, win for the other, win for the planet. If it's not a win-win-win, it's not a win. And all you need to know is what you truly want. If you truly want destruction, there's people who truly want to destroy and they just want to they don't want to rebuild. Just know that and then get clear about what you want to do. Because all that matters right now is that we're all clear. Because we will all create what we resonate at. And there's an infinite amount of parallel realities, so we don't need to worry about lining up to someone else's reality. All we need to do is worry about our own resonance, because what we admit, we attract. So the affirmation I have for you is, I forgive everyone, everywhere, in all timelines and parallel realities, especially myself. So if we decide to choose restoration over revenge, then what we're investing in is humanity. We're investing in our humanity. And in order to heal anything, it has to be loved. So it is important that we understand what we're here to do. We're here to love our humanity, and it starts with us. And this is why empaths have a pulse on the collective hive mind, the collective human hive mind. And it's important that you understand if you're in self-hatred, you are in war with humanity, literally a psychic warfare. And if you have moments where you're just feeling dazed and confused, especially lately, and feeling like you can't get clear about your intention and you don't know where you are or what's happening, it's because you're in psychic warfare. And that means that you're at war with your own humanity within. So it's important that you clarify that your entire objective here is to end the war within you. So I want to give you 4 ways that you can invest in your humanity. 1 is to stop judging yourself and start experiencing yourself. Studies show that the way to heal or rehabilitate behavior is through nurturing, understanding, and compassion, not through negative reinforcement. In fact, negative reinforcement only serves to exacerbate the problem. It's nonsensical and counterproductive. When you judge and criticize yourself, you're judging and criticizing humanity. You're not a part of the restoration. You're engaging in destruction. You're engaging in war. Now, no, there's the difference between criticism and discernment. And so my second tip to investing in your humanity is to develop your discernment. When we develop discernment, we pay attention to how we feel, and we test it against the laws of abundance, which I'll go into in another slide. If it doesn't include all that we are, it's not for us. If it's not the win-win-win, it's not the win. The more familiar we get with how the win-win-win feels, with how the abundance matrix feels, then the less likely we are to compromise our needs. The easier it becomes to discern what's for us and what's against us. It's not about the ultimate right or wrong, and this is where we get tripped up in our mind and always wondering, are we doing the right thing or the wrong thing? It's not a knowing process, it's a feeling process. And anyone who teaches you that your emotions don't matter are keeping you in the lack matrix, and it's important to know that. So in order to develop discernment, we have to tune into how things feel. We have to practice the resonance of abundance. And the better we get at recognizing that resonance, the easier it is to discern what's right and what's wrong for us. In other words, the more that we get in touch with our hearts and have the fellowship of our body and our mind and our hearts, the easier it is to feel abundant. And we will know instantly when we're not feeling it. It will get easy to tell what matrix you're in. You just have to develop the practice of tuning in. And the fourth tip I have for you to invest into your humanity is to stop spending your energy and invest it instead. As an empath, it's essential that you choose wisely where you will focus your energy. Otherwise, you merely drain it. We spend our energy when we focus on anything that does not serve us or give us back. So worrying is one way that we drain our life force. Worrying about things we have no control over, thinking about things we're not interested in, thinking about the problem rather than the solution. Those are all ways in which we drain our energy. So it's important that we become masters of our thoughts and pay attention to when our thoughts are spinning in ways that are draining us, and redirect our focus in a way that's investing in our well-being, investing in our gold, which is our hearts. So it's important, number 4, to learn the laws of the abundance matrix. Now, I did an entire video on this, so in the next couple of slides, I'm just going to go over them really, really fast, but I will also put a link in the description box of this video for another video that I did called 7 Laws of Astronomical Abundance, which will go into this. But my suggestion is that you learn these well, because again, this will help you navigate. This will help you know, am I in lack or in abundance? And the important thing to remember here as we're talking about investing in your humanity, investing in your humanity is investing in your ability to feel and have fellowship with your body and your mind. This is becoming a master creator, because once you master your resonance, you can no longer be a match to lack, and you can no longer be controlled. And it's important that you know this quite literally. This is about becoming a powerful manifester, because when you start realizing that you can meet your needs directly, you can't be manipulated through guilt, fear, and shame. And all that matters is your own integration and your own alignment. And you can kind of let everyone off the hook, and then the war stops naturally. So I'm going to run through these fast. Like I said, there'll be a video posted in the description box of this video if you want to go into this deeper. But here's the laws of the abundance matrix, the laws of our new navigation system. So 1, it's important that we check our motivation. You know instantly whether you're in lack or abundance by if you're running away from something you don't want, that's the lack matrix, or if you're running towards something you do want, that's prompted by desire, that's the abundance matrix. So you can know instantly, am I running away from something? Then I'm fueling the lack matrix, and shift it, turn it off, find something you want and go towards what you want. In the lack paradigm, we are motivated by fear, which is ultimately destructive. In the abundance paradigm, we are motivated by our highest excitement or our desire for healing, and it's ultimately creative. We follow synchronicity. We follow synchronicity by listening to how we feel, not just what we think. So the lack paradigm is ruled by the mind, which is a terrible master because it's in survival mode. The abundance paradigm is ruled by the heart. How we feel becomes utmost importance. In the abundance matrix, we go directly towards what we want. So we avoid unnecessary steps that drain our energy, all these systems, and get certified and do this and that. Not that that is a bad thing, but it's important to remember anytime someone's telling you you have to do this in order to get here, really look at that, because you can usually go directly towards what you want without jumping through hoops. Hoops are part of the lack matrix. They're like training wheels, and they're good for while they're needed, but once they're not needed anymore, they are superfluous. So as we get better and better at fine-tuning our navigation system to abundance, we will realize that we can go directly towards what we want, and all these systems that we set up will start becoming nonsensical and irrelevant. In the abundance matrix, we don't have to compromise any aspect of who we are. In the lack matrix, some vital aspect of us is always being bypassed, whether it's our heart, our mind, or our bodies, because we're in lack, so there's never enough. Lack will hold us in the victim, aggressor, savior paradigm, and so some part of us always has to be victimized. In the lack matrix, the dominant emotions are fear, guilt, and shame. We're usually confused and have a lack of clarity, a sense of feeling disconnected from others, and a strong group think. If you don't think like everyone else, it's scary and you feel threatened. That's how you know you're in the lack matrix, if you're thinking that way. The abundance matrix is dominated by emotions of joy, excitement, creative inspiration, exhilaration, connection, unique ideas and perspective, and a diversity of thought. In the lack matrix, being different is the source of our pain. In the abundance matrix, being different is the source of our power. Now, it's important to understand when we're looking at the difference between the lack matrix and the abundance matrix, is that the currency of the lack matrix is money. Thoughts are numbed out due to a limited understanding of true currency and therefore limited thoughts. But in the abundance matrix, restorative ideas and imagination is the currency. Thoughts are the currency. So keeping our mind sharp and clear is of utmost importance, because the mind wants to create our matrix, and it's always going to continue to create. So what matters is whether or not what it's creating is actually restorative for the planet, is actually needed and contributing to the abundance of the planet, or is it actually destructive for the planet and contributing to the destruction and the lack on the planet. So that's another way to know whether you're in the lack matrix or the abundance matrix. Is it restorative? Is money your currency, or are ideas your currency? Are you investing in your ideas? Are you investing in your creativity? Or are you limiting your thoughts and creativity and selling yourself out for money? Now, money's not wrong. It's a tool, and I'll talk about this in another slide. Money being one of the big blocks for empaths to abundance. It's important to not paint money as the enemy. It's not money that's wrong. It's the misunderstanding of what it is. It's selling out and bypassing some aspect of ourselves in order to get money. So abundance matrix is ultimately restorative, and ideas and imagination are the currency. The language of the abundance matrix is authenticity. In the lack paradigm, it's all about false flattery, false praise, and keeping how you really feel to yourself. Everyone just has to behave and pretend. You know that usually when you're in a corporate setting, that's the energy, and you know instantly you're in lack when you feel that energy. In the abundance paradigm, 100% authenticity and transparency is the language, and therefore we get exactly what we ask for because we're not afraid to be 100% honest about what we need and what we feel. We don't have to be disrespectful, but we're allowed to speak our truth in the abundance matrix, and it matters, and space is made for the heart, so how you feel matters. Big difference in the lack and abundance matrix there. So the overall effect of both paradigms, the lack paradigm separates us from our true selves and is ultimately destructive. The abundance paradigm connects us to our true selves and is ultimately restorative. Important to understand these. Listen to it over and over. I think I'll put a PDF that just has it written out as well, but know it because this will ultimately help you discern and quickly manifest the life that you want. The better that you can get at recognizing lack and abundance, the easier it is to shift because you realize that the lack matrix is nonsensical because it's not self-sustaining. The abundance matrix is self-sustaining. It puts us in alignment with the win-win-win. No aspect of us or anyone else is compromised, and everyone thrives. And the more that you thrive, the more that the people thrive around you. The competitive nature of the lack matrix is no longer needed. And then it just becomes, what can we create together? How can we play and make it better? The last thing I want to say, the last important point I want to drive home is that there is never a reason to withhold love. Remember, love is limitless, and it is one of the currencies of the abundance paradigm. It is what everyone needs. It's in high demand, and there's never a reason to withhold it. We don't have to withhold it. Money doesn't get us love. Things don't get us love. Experiences don't necessarily get us love. What gives us love is nurturing, allowing, making space for, having compassion. There is never a good reason to withhold love from ourselves or others. We can have boundaries and we can say no, but withholding love means withholding life force. It means saying that we are unworthy to receive life or healing or restoration. It's saying that humanity is undeserving of love. We never have to worry about someone not getting what they deserve, because in order for healing to take place, we must integrate our darkness. And therefore, everything we've ever done to or against another is or will be made known to us. It is recorded in our DNA. It is recorded in our hearts, and we feel it. And in order to have our hearts back, everyone is going to have to face what they've created. We don't escape it. And that's why running from pain is futile. That's why pretending that we don't feel what we feel is futile. That's why not looking at the darkness is futile. It's there anyway. It's only when we turn around and face it and overcome it that we become true masters. So as you go through this process, as you go through your healing process, especially as you prepare to step into your role, to jump on the next opportunity that comes, you are shifting your mindset from lack to abundance. And what is so crucial is that you do not withhold love from yourself during this process, because it is a death process, and you're going to see parts of yourself that you don't like, and you're going to see parts of humanity that you don't like. But it doesn't mean that it's a reason to withhold love, because if we withhold love, we are doomed. The only way for us to survive is to love, and that love starts within us. It starts first with us. So my challenge to you is to love yourself enough to download the matrix of abundance, to start shifting and preparing yourself to be a leader in the new matrix. Because as you overcome your programming, this is the technology the world needs. How do you overcome trauma? How do you overcome lack? You're the forerunners for this, and you've already been doing it in multiple ways. It's just that you've had a habit of bypassing your needs. So once you shift, you're getting your new navigation system. You know now what it is that you're meant to do. You know what you're being called for. We're all being called to love, radical self-love. and to overcome our lack programming. So as we overcome it, we can turn around and give the tools to those who are similar to us. And so it's important that you care about your journey right now. This part of it matters. If you bypass this, you'll never be able to step into your power. And this is where most people go wrong. They think, oh, okay, I want to get out of the matrix. I'm going to pay $5,000 for a business coach and do marketing and create all this stuff. Or whatever it is that you decide to do. I'm going to go off and live in the wilderness forever. But if you don't do this work, if you don't shift your mindset, it won't matter. None of it will matter. None of it will matter if you don't reprogram your DNA or your programming to abundance. So it's important to know that, important to know what you're doing. Give yourself the space to do it. You are going through a death process and you're coming back to life. So it's important to understand that it's okay to make space for that. It's okay to make space for healing. It's okay to love yourself. I find it amazing how much time we will spend worrying about the future and worrying about things we can't change and what people think and are saying and are doing. We literally spend our energy and our life force on things that we have no control over. But the things that we can do that can help us feel better, we will often overlook. This is especially true for empaths because we've made a lifetime habit of bypassing our needs. So the simplest of investments in ourselves, we often won't do. We won't even consider. Little things and big things. Things like taking a salt bath, going on a walk in nature, eating healthy foods, surrounding us with things that we love, deep breathing, inner child work, reminding us that it's okay, loving ourselves despite knowing our imperfections. All of these things are investments in ourselves. And every time we invest in ourselves, we develop self-trust. Our inner self can trust us more. We really develop the fellowship of our body, our mind, and our heart. Because to have fellowship in a harmonic way with all that we are, we need to feel good. We are creatures of desire and we're creatures of pleasure. We are meant to feel good, but not at the expense of bypassing some vital aspect of ourselves. And we don't have to anymore. So one of the things I want to challenge you to do is invest in yourself, to make the commitment. Like I said, it's taken a lifetime to develop the habits that you have had that drain your energy. So it's going to take some time to readjust your navigation system to investing in yourself rather than spending your life force. But know that it's worth it. And remember that it's the little things that matter. All that matters is that you feel better. That's your only job, because this is a universe that's based on frequency. So if you emit the frequency of safety, of pleasure, of love, of excitement, of joy, you bring that on the planet. You literally become the embodiment